Imagine you have just been dropped into, like, the middle of a bustling foreign city.
Oh, wow. Okay, stressful.
Yeah, exactly. Super stressful.
Yeah.
You are tired, you're incredibly hungry,
Yeah,
and you just don't speak a single word of the local language.
right. A total nightmare scenario for most people.
Totally. So what are the very first words you actually need to learn to survive?
Yeah,
You would probably think the answer is pretty simple.
right. You'd think I need the word for food or water or, help.
Yes, exactly. But according to the source material we are looking at today, if you only focus on those, like, physical necessities, you are entirely missing the most important survival skill of all.
Which is a really fascinating pivot.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled to have you with us because our mission today is to unpack a foundational, honestly, deceptively simple text.
It is very simple on the surface, yeah.
Right. It is a short, entry-level language lesson titled Easy English, a trip to the supermarket.
And for you listening, when you first glance at this source material, it might look like, honestly, the most basic utilitarian pedagogy imaginable.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, the lesson is structured in three distinct phases. First, we have a conversational dialogue between two characters named Sarah and Tom.
Right. Very standard textbook stuff.
Exactly. Second, the lesson extracts specific vocabulary from that conversation and provides an English to Arabic translation list.
Okay, got it.
And then finally, it presents this targeted verbal practice section, so, context, vocabulary, and repetition. It is the absolute definition of entry-level instruction.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because while you might think a lesson about buying milk and bread is just a mechanical guide to buying groceries, it actually serves as a fascinating microcosm.
It really does.
Right. It's a microcosm of human connection, our raw survival needs, and cross-cultural communication. Like, it is way deeper than just a quick run to the store.
Yeah, there's a lot going on under the hood here.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's start by looking at the narrative flow of that opening conversation between Sarah and Tom, because the way they interact is incredibly deliberate.
It really is deliberate. The progression of their interaction follows a very specific sociolinguistic arc.
Okay, break that down for us.
So it begins with what we call phatic communication, which is really just a fancy way of saying they are engaging in the standard social contract of small talk.
Right, the basic, weather talk.
Yes. Sarah initiates by saying, "Hi, Tom, how are you today?" And Tom replies, "I'm good, thanks. How about you?" And Sarah confirms, "I'm doing well."
It's the required pleasantries. And what is interesting is that they aren't actually exchanging real information yet.
No, not at all.
When Sarah asks how Tom is, she isn't looking for, like, a medical update.
Right, she doesn't want his chart.
Yeah, it's almost like a verbal handshake.
That is the perfect way to look at it. It establishes a baseline of social safety.
Okay.
Once that safety is confirmed, they transition into instrumental communication. That is identifying a tangible purpose.
Moving on to the actual point of the chat.
Exactly. Sarah asks, "What are you doing today?" And Tom states his explicit goal. He is going to the supermarket.
Right.
Sarah naturally asks what he needs, and he lists his necessities: milk, bread, and fruit.
The essentials.
Yep. Finally, the interaction concludes with shared alignment. Sarah reveals she needs to go shopping too, Tom suggests they go together, and Sarah enthusiastically agrees.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this interaction models the absolute ideal path of human communication.
Oh, wow, the ideal path.
Yeah, it moves smoothly from polite acknowledgement to the disclosure of personal needs, and finally to shared conflict-free collaboration.
I look at it almost like a linguistic clean room.
Ooh, a clean room. I like that.
Yeah, it's this perfectly sterile, completely controlled environment where everything works exactly as it should. It gives the learner a perfect model.
It does.
But I have to ask, and I want to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Is teaching an interaction this perfectly polite and straightforward actually setting the learner up for success? Or is this, an idealized laboratory version of human connection that just completely falls apart the second you step outside?
Right. The real world is messy.
Exactly. Let's be honest. In the real world, someone is checking their phone, or the cashier mumbles, or a person just grunts at you and keeps walking.
That is a completely fair challenge. You are right to point out that it is highly sanitized.
Yeah.
But that simplicity, that clean room environment, to use your metaphor, is exactly what makes it effective pedagogy for a beginner.
How so?
Well, in the chaos of the real world, a language learner is dealing with massive sensory overload. You have background noise, slang, unpredictable varying accents, and honestly the stress of social anxiety.
Right, you're terrified of sounding foolish.
Exactly. By stripping away all that real-world noise and presenting this idealized, frictionless interaction, the specific vocabulary is allowed to stand out.
Ah, okay. So it's about reducing the variables.
Yes, it creates a safe, predictable framework. The fundamental mechanics of exchanging a greeting and stating a need aren't obscured by the messiness of real life.
That makes sense.
You have to understand how the communication works in a vacuum before you can start accounting for, a stranger who is having a bad day or mumbling behind a counter.
Right, you have to learn to walk before you run a marathon. That makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if this polite, sanitized greeting is the structural container of the interaction. What is the actual meat? What are the specific components they are putting inside that container?
That's the vocabulary.
Right, let's look at the exact words this text gives a beginner to survive, which leads us directly into the vocabulary list. The source material extracts 6 very specific words and pairs them with their Arabic translations.
Just 6 words.
Just 6. We have supermarket, milk, bread, fruit, shopping, and together. 6 words to navigate a fundamental human chore.
And looking at that list, it is a very tight, highly curated selection. It is designed to bridge English and Arabic around a universally understood task.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, if you look closely at the Arabic translations provided in the text, there's a massive historical and cultural contrast embedded right in the middle of this list.
Right, I noticed that too.
Take the word for supermarket. The Arabic translation provided is pronounced subarmarket.
Which is a modern phonetic transliteration.
Exactly. Let's explain what that actually means for the listener because it's a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
A phonetic transliteration means that instead of having a native historical Arabic word for this concept, they simply took the English sounds and mapped them onto the Arabic alphabet.
Right, they just carried the sounds over.
Yes. If you sound out the Arabic letters, you are literally just saying the English word supermarket with a localized pronunciation.
Because it's a newer concept.
Exactly. It is an imported word for an imported concept. But then, look at the very next items on the list. You have milk, which is Laban. You have bread, which is kubs. You have fruit, which is fakiha.
Right.
These are not modern loanwords. These are ancient, deeply foundational words for human sustenance.
Look at what that linguistic collision actually means. You have the modern, globalized world slamming right into the ancient, enduring reality of human biology.
It's wild to see them side by side.
It really is. What the specific selection of words represents is the timeless necessity for survival, the agricultural revolution embodied in bread and milk, and that is paired with the highly modern, commercialized venue where we acquire them today.
Supermarket.
Right. The supermarket, as a concept, is a relatively new invention in the grand scheme of human history. That is why the word is imported, but the human need for kubs, for bread, is as old as civilization itself.
That is so true.
This short vocabulary list captures that dichotomy seamlessly.
It is like a time machine hidden in a grocery list. You have thousands of years of human history sitting right next to a 20th century retail concept.
Beautifully put.
But as I was reading through this, there was one word on that list that broke the pattern completely for me.
Oh, which one?
At the very end of this list of tangible physical things, bread you can hold, milk you can pour, a supermarket you can physically walk into, at the very end, we get the word together. The Arabic translation, misana.
Ah, yes.
Why is an abstract relational concept included right next to a loaf of bread?
It completely shifts the focus, doesn't it? It
Right.
takes a list of physical commodities and injects a social dynamic.
It really does. It tells me that in the context of this language lesson, community and connection are being treated as essential survival items alongside food.
That is a great observation.
You need bread to feed your physical body, but you need togetherness to actually navigate the world. The lesson is implicitly arguing that for someone entering a new culture, a new language environment, isolation is just as dangerous as starvation.
I agree completely. And that focus on connection, on the concept of man, or together, isn't just some quirky philosophical addition to the vocabulary list.
Right.
No, it actually operates as the ultimate goal of the entire lesson. If you look at the final section of the source material, the practice section, this becomes incredibly apparent.
Oh, right. This is the part where the lesson shifts gears And the learner is instructed to essentially repeat after me.
Exactly. The practice section distills the entire lesson into 4 specific, isolated sentences that the learner is instructed to repeat out loud over and over.
And those are,
Those sentences are, how are you today? I'm doing well. What are you doing today? And let's go together.
wait, looking at these 4 practice phrases, they don't actually buy anything.
Exactly.
The food is completely missing from the practice section.
What's fascinating here is the pedagogical arc of these 4 sentences. It perfectly mirrors the progression of building a relationship from scratch.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. It starts with a greeting to establish contact. It moves to stating your current condition to build empathy. It transitions to inquiring about the other person's intent, showing interest.
Right.
And it culminates in proposing collaborative action. Let's do this thing together. But to your point, it completely ignores the actual transaction.
Yes, the bread, the milk, the fruit, the Laban, the cubs, they are completely gone.
Vanished.
The literal title of the lesson is A Trip to the Supermarket. Yet the final, crucial practice phase completely ignores the commerce. It ignores the sustenance.
Right.
It focuses exclusively on the social bonds required to make the trip with another human being.
Which is incredible when you think about it.
But this brings up a really important question about how we actually learn.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for the learner?
Okay.
Does breaking down language into these highly repetitive, isolated chunks, repeat after me, how are you today, does that strip language of its natural, spontaneous flow?
That is the big debate in linguistics.
I mean, human conversation is supposed to be dynamic and alive. Is this rigid repetition really the absolute only way to build the muscle memory required to navigate a new language?
Right, you're asking if it's just rote memorization.
Because it feels a lot like rote memorization, which generally gets a pretty bad rap in modern education.
Rote memorization does get a bad rap. But for the learner, for you listening, if you have ever tried to pick up a new language or even just tried to order coffee in a foreign country, you know exactly why this specific kind of repetition is neurologically necessary.
Wait, neurologically necessary?
Yes. We have to talk about cognitive load theory.
Okay, break that down for us. What is cognitive load?
Think about your brain's working memory as having a very limited amount of bandwidth.
Like RAM on a computer.
Exactly like RAM. When you are standing in a supermarket in a foreign country, your cognitive load is immense. You are simultaneously trying to translate the signs in the aisles, you are calculating unfamiliar currency, and you are trying to remember local cultural customs so you don't offend anyone.
Right. Your brain is working overtime.
Your working memory is completely maxed out. If, on top of all of that, you also have to invent the grammatical structure of a basic greeting from scratch, in real time, while the cashier is staring at you and people are waiting in line behind you,
you will freeze.
You will absolutely freeze.
It is the classic deer in the headlights moment.
Yeah.
Your brain just blue screens.
Because it literally has no processing power left. That is why repetition in language learning is not just mindless echoing, it is the foundational bedrock of all linguistic mastery.
Oh, wow.
By repeating a phrase like, how are you today, over and over in that clean room environment, you are building a neuromuscular pathway. You are moving that phrase out of your limited working memory and storing it deep in your long-term memory.
Ah, so it's kind of like learning to drive a car with a manual transmission.
Oh, that's a great example.
Yeah, when you first start learning to drive stick, your entire working memory is consumed by the mechanics. Push the clutch, move the stick, ease off the clutch, press the gas.
It's all you can think about.
Exactly. If someone in the passenger seat asks you a complex question while you are trying to shift from second to third gear, you stall the car.
Yes.
You just don't have the mental bandwidth to have a conversation and operate the machinery at the same time.
That is a brilliant analogy. Yes, you have to consciously think about shifting gears at first. But what happens after you practice it 1,000 times?
You don't even think about it.
It becomes automatic. Your body just does it. That is what this practice section is doing. It is giving the learner a reliable, heavily rehearsed script.
It's the muscle memory.
Exactly. It allows the learner to fall back on automatic muscle memory so they don't stall out in the grocery aisle.
Yeah.
The spontaneity, the dynamic human connection, the natural flow of conversation that you mentioned earlier, that all comes much later.
Right.
You have to build the structural skeleton first, and you have to make those movements automatic before you can actually start to dance.
Which brings us right back to how we construct our understanding of the world. So, to summarize this incredible journey, we have taken through such a brief, seemingly simple text.
It's quite a journey.
We started by looking at a perfectly structured, deeply polite greeting between Tom and Sarah. And we explored how that phatic communication establishes a safe baseline for human interaction.
Right, the verbal handshake.
We then crossed a cultural bridge, examining an English-Arabic vocabulary list that placed the imported modern concept of a supermarket right alongside the ancient biological human need for daily sustenance, the cubs and the Laban.
The clash of the ancient and modern.
And we saw how that list culminated in the abstract need for community. Finally, we looked at the underlying neuroscience of building linguistic muscle memory, where we realized the practice lesson wasn't really about buying groceries at all.
No, not at all.
It was about hardwiring the social scripts necessary to secure a companion for the journey.
It really is a masterclass in layered pedagogy. And for you, the listener, whether you are prepping for a high-stakes presentation at work, trying to navigate a complex new field of study, or genuinely just trying to learn a new language, it is crucial to remember that all complex knowledge starts with these exact same basic building blocks.
The fundamentals.
You have to understand the bread and milk of a topic, the bare fundamental necessities, the structural scripts, before you can move on to the abstract nuances. You have to automate the basics so your brain has the cognitive bandwidth to improvise.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And looking at how this simple grocery store lesson is structured, this raises an important question about how we approach learning new things every day.
What's that?
Are we focusing too much on the end goal, the transaction, the final grade, the finished project, and completely ignoring the foundational, repetitive, structural steps required to actually get there without stalling out?
That is exactly what I want to leave everyone with today. Think about how this text ultimately ends. It doesn't end with a successful purchase at a cash register.
No, it doesn't.
It ends with Tom and Sarah deciding to go to the supermarket together.
Yeah.
If our most basic shared human experiences and the very first things we systematically teach a beginner in a new language involve seeking both physical sustenance, like food, and social company,
Right.
what does that actually say about the true underlying purpose of language itself?
It's a huge question.
Is language fundamentally just a utility? Is it just a tool designed strictly for survival and evolutionary adaptation to ensure we can clearly coordinate how to acquire the milk and bread we need to keep our physical bodies alive?
Or is it something more?
Right. Or, when you look at how deeply embedded the desire for connection is, even in a beginner's grocery list, was language actually invented to cure loneliness?
Wow.
Was the incredibly complex machinery of human speech built simply so we would have someone to walk to the market with? It is something to mull over the next time you find yourself making a grocery list.
Definitely.
Until next time, thanks for taking the deep dive with us.